Hi, my name is Mike B. I am a Bay Area-based glamour/nude photographer, and I'm joined today by traveling independent model Shawna Lee. You and I have worked together a handful of times over the past couple of years, and you pretty much like make your way just kind of up and down the West Coast, pretty much for the most part, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're from, where are you from?
I'm originally from Pennsylvania, but now I live in Portland, Oregon.
In Portland?
Yes.
How long have you been in Portland?
I've been settled there for about a year, but I've been off and on there probably about 2 years. So, but I'm actually settled there for about a year.
Oh, for about a year now.
Yeah.
Has it really only been a year that you've been there?
Yeah, but like I said, I float, I'll go here and come back and then,
Yeah. So you've been in Pennsylvania pretty much the entire time, and then you came out here. Were you a model in Pennsylvania?
No. So I actually, from like the very beginning, so I went to college, did all that kind of stuff. I worked in a hospital as an ultrasound tech for 3 years out of college. And then after that, I decided that's really not where I wanted to go with things. And then I actually worked as a photographer for like a small little magazine in Pennsylvania before I even started modeling. And I think I worked probably 3 years like that. And then from there, I just started doing my own freelance work. I worked with other models that were in the industry in Pennsylvania. So that's how I got started. And then I just started just booking elsewhere. And then I always wanted to travel. So I just mixed it all into one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long have you been a photographer for then?
Like 6 years, maybe.
6 years.
Yeah.
What's your, it's funny. I don't have a whole lot of photographer questions, but it was I have talk photography stuff at the end because I know you do photography.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't know that you did photography first.
Yeah.
And then transitioned into doing modeling. So what do you shoot with?
Canon.
Canon.
It's a 70D. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And what's your favorite lens?
I like my 50, like it's just like a nice little, it's like perfect for everything. I also have a Sigma, which I just, forget what it was, but it's a Zoom Sigma 70 to 120 or something, I think it is.
Okay, yeah, a typical, just an all-arounder, 70, 125, or I don't know, I can't remember the actual lens.
Yeah, something like that. But it's a really, really nice lens, but I like the 50. I don't know, I just stick with it.
Is it the nifty 50 or 1.8, right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. I used that thing for so long. I finally got a 1.4, and I was just like, did I really need to get this 1.4?
I get stuck on it. I forget to change out lenses when I'm shooting. I just need to remember, because I like it so much. I like what I get. I'm like, okay, I have to switch it up.
Let's try something different. Yes. Jeez. So you, what did you typically shoot?
Women would hire us to shoot them for specific things to build their portfolio, but then we would also publish them in our little magazine. So it would kind of get their name out, because there's not much opportunity in Pennsylvania for any kind of modeling or photography. It's not really an industry there.
Doesn't really seem like a hotbed for models and photographers.
Yeah, exactly. So this was kind of a way for them to be published kind of. And it was like a women's magazine, so it built their self-esteem, and I don't know, it was a connecting community too. So it was beautiful. I worked with probably 40 different models throughout my
wow.
I wouldn't even say models, but just women.
Yeah.
That came through, and it was a beautiful thing, because I even put on some fashion shows. Got them in front of people, and the point behind it was to empower women and to make them comfortable with themselves and everything. So that was the main point behind what we were trying to do. Yeah.
So at some point here, you decided, I feel like I could do this, or did a friend kind of rope you in, or how did you get started with actually the modeling portion?
So I don't even know. Somebody encouraged me that was that I was working with. It might have been my one of the other girls that I was working with at the time. She's like, Shawna, why didn't you get in front of the camera? I was like, maybe. So I did. And I'm telling you what, those pictures were awful. I never want to see those pictures again. Yeah.
Do you want to send them to me for the, as we get at them into the video? No, no not at all.
They're awful. But no, it was just and it was, I'm still am, but I was extremely shy, and I'm still pretty shy. So that was a way for me to like break out of my shell too,
Right.
you know? So.
Right. Is this your first podcast show type thing? It is. You're not shy. No. It's funny you talk about like your first shoots being like super embarrassed. I think every model has like their first shoot photos that they're just like, I don't ever want to show anybody these again, right?
Yeah.
They just gotta disappear. But the best one that I don't think I'll ever get beat was MK Blondie. Her first shoot was a boudoir shoot done by Glamour Shots. Like with the soft filter and all that, and like she did a bunch of nudes and they wouldn't even give them to her because it was too risque. Yeah, so she was basically stuck with nothing. Only half the photos or whatever.
Jeez.
So at least you didn't go to Glamour Shots for your photos.
Right? Yeah.
So if I may ask, what is your ethnic background?
I am Italian and Cherokee Indian.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's funny. So we were talking earlier about of all things, my dog getting the embark, the 23andMe, and you didn't even know what 23andMe was.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about? Did you know that existed, where you could have your DNA examined for your heritage?
I knew it
and whatnot?
existed. Yeah, I just wasn't sure what exact. I didn't know the name of it. I guess. You know? But my grandmother did. What was it, Ancestry? Something with.
Yeah,
Ancestry?
it's like the same thing. Totally.
Yeah, she did something like that for me a while ago. Quite a few years ago. She had a little like diagram of like her background and like where we came from and stuff. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really neat. Like everybody should kind of do that. I don't know, should know where they came from.
yeah. Except for the people that are paranoid, they're submitting their DNA to a company. It's like, they could set me up for something in the future or whatever. So you're a Canon shooter, which is great news. Even though I shoot on Sony now, I guess.
Sonys are. I like Sonys.
Yeah,
like they're really good.
yeah. Like as a Canon shooter, I wasn't eyeballing Nikon. I was eyeballing the Sonys.
That's how I feel. I feel like if I would make the transition, it would definitely be to a Sony. They're just their low light quality is.
They don't quite feel as durable. Like I have a 60 here and a 60 that's looking at you right now, right? And I loved these things. I felt like they were durable. I just carried them around. I don't even have a strap. I just kind of carry them around. It's like, whatever. It's like, if I drop it, whatever, it'll be fine,
Yeah.
I never dropped it though, so I'm pretty sure it probably wouldn't survive that. But yeah, I just always felt like they just had a bit of a durability to them.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sonys are kind of like just little and I don't know. Yeah. I'd have to be super careful because I'm clumsy. So.
Just dropping cameras all over the place. So when you were shooting, I'm curious now. What was your so did you do all the lighting and everything, or was it already like a kind of a set that you kind of worked with other people on? Yeah,
it was more of a set that I worked with other people on, and honestly, we worked a lot. We did a lot of outside shoots. That's kind of probably why I prefer outside shooting now. But I had some people like teach me along the way with lighting and things like that. But I primarily shot outside and just worked with natural light, just because that's what I like to do. I maybe did like a handful of studio stuff whenever I was shooting for them. But yeah, it was kind of like just preference. And I don't know, part of the experience was going out and adventuring and like, taking them to like new places and just going like that, making it more personal rather than just going to a studio and just shooting them. So there was more of a relationship building with it,
Oh, how interesting. I didn't think about that element because I mean, obviously I want to talk to you about you shoot out there. You're a total outdoors model. Like you go to your feet, it's just like outside. I never thought about the actual connection part of it. It's like, when you go out to these places, because for me, it's just like, oh my, how am I supposed to scout this place? Like, I'm just going to go out in the middle of the forest and it's just like, okay, cool. This is a good spot. Let me just GPS this and I'll come back to this later. And then I have to like walk with a model out there, however far that is. I mean, for you, like you just go out with like maybe a small group or just you and another model, or like, how does that work?
Yeah, it was you're still talking about in Pennsylvania?
Just or even here locally. I would like to talk about you, like you going out with other photographers and whatnot.
Yeah. So whenever I was in Pennsylvania, it was more of like a group of us would go out. So it was also, mingling with all the other women that were there. So that was really awesome to connect with everybody and like be like, oh, that looks cool over there. Let's go shoot over there. Or like, let's go down this path. And like, it was just like it was just a beautiful thing. Like I loved connecting people like that and getting to being around women that were like-minded and supportive is wonderful, So I guess like here, whenever I'm modeling and I go out with photographers, it's usually just one-on-one, unless it's like a workshop. And then there's multiple photographers and maybe myself and another model. But yeah, it's like it's a wonderful thing to just go out and explore. I think like I like just to kind of free flow and not have everything so planned out. I think sometimes that's when you get the best work.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. I mostly shoot indoors. If I go outside, it's usually like in a controlled environment. It's like in the backyard or in somebody else's backyard. You know, it's like or on a porch or something. It's never really like in the great outdoors, the wild. And you know, for me, and maybe for other photographers that may be watching this that are thinking about getting out of the hotel rooms and getting out of that stuff. Like how do you deal with I guess like just nudity in the just out in nature? Like, do you just do it?
Yeah. I mean, so one, look up your laws in every state. Every state has their different laws.
So follow the law. Don't break any laws, guys. Don't break any laws. Yeah.
So, and there's some like states that if you do look it up, they allow nudity, and that's cool. You know what I mean? So in Portland, you're allowed to be topless. In the state of Oregon, you are allowed to be completely nude as long as it's not for any kind of like sexual pleasure or anything like that.
Okay.
So just like look up your laws, no matter where you go. But
what was the laws here? Do you know?
I don't know actually. I feel like topless probably would be okay here, but I don't know. I don't know.
Probably not on like federal lands or something like that. I'm sure there's something like that.
But I mean, the key is just being like, don't go out in a big, huge group. Keep it like one-on-one. Keep like your lighting. Don't take out a bunch of lights and stuff. Pretty much work with like a reflector or maybe one light if you really want to.
Yeah.
But just go to a secluded place. I would definitely scope it out beforehand and make sure, it's all good. There's not a lot of people. Go during times when you would expect, no one to be there during the weekdays instead of the weekends. And I don't know, just like do your homework a little bit and
So I mean, you're very comfortable with obviously being outdoors and being nude. And when I go outdoors, I'm like gnats, mosquitoes, right? Like I'm sure that you probably have the same issues when you go out, just basically spraying off all over yourself or something.
Exactly. Prepare.
How did you go? So you were a photographer in Pennsylvania, and you got roped into doing the actual modeling portion of it. How did that lead to nude photography? Actually, what I should ask is, were you a nude photographer before or just, you were? Mm-hmm. Okay. Cause you said boudoir and everything, but sometimes there's a limit there.
No,
right?
Yeah. I mean, I did. I mean, for the women, a lot of the women that we photographed, they wanted nude pictures taken, for their self or for their partner or whoever, they wanted it for. So I gladly would do that for them because it made them feel good and, everything. So yeah, I had no problem. I mean, like I said, I was super shy, so it was also challenging me to step outside of my perception of things and, look at things a little bit differently. So it was good for me too. And then, I don't know, I felt like if I was photographing nude models, I should probably, I should do it myself,
Just try yourself. I think that all the time.
Yeah. But no, I just felt like I would also learn more. And I think that's like, I would understand how to pose and I could help them pose. And if I did it too, you know what I mean?
Right.
So.
Yeah. So you probably jumped right into the game having just like tons of experience because you've already directed it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like when you work with photographers that maybe are not so good at giving directions, you probably pick it up like right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're like, don't worry, I could take care of this.
Yeah.
Just lay on a log or something, right? Just like, I got this.
Yeah.
So, when you're out there traveling with photographers, like kind of out in the dirt and everything, like what is like the most like what is a place that you work with somebody else, a photographer I should say, where you got there and you're just like, holy shit, like this spot is amazing. Like you want to just like an area that you would love to shoot at again.
Oh boy.
Without giving away anyone's secrets, I guess, but you can if you want to.
Yeah. Well, I love anywhere near the water. So anywhere near the beach, it's awesome. But I just recently was in Bali this past year and I would love to shoot there again because it is everywhere is just gorgeous. Like there's
colors.
Yeah, exactly. And just like I don't know, just you just get a different feel there. Like it's just very welcoming and it's beautiful. There's all the greenery and I don't know. I would definitely go back there. I live there.
You live there? What's the when you travel abroad? I mean, you've traveled like all over the place?
Well, Bali and Singapore are the only two that I've actually traveled outside the country. Yeah. The rest is all in the U.S.
All in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Like how is like how are the laws out there with like doing nude? Because in some countries, other more conservative countries, like you can't even you better not take any photos nude.
Yeah.
You'll go to jail, right?
Trouble. Yeah. I mean, we definitely had to be pretty careful. I don't think that in Bali is extremely open to it, but then again, I mean, their culture, I mean, there were women, I forget when it was, that was how they just walked around topless for a long time until we kind of made it into a touristy place.
Oh, and then how great.
and then
other people were like,
yeah. But like for their culture for a long time, women just kind of like, because they worked in the fields, when they were just topless, it was no problem.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. But now things are a little bit different,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How funny. Yeah. I mean, I get it. Like, Western culture or whatever other culture goes in and they're just like, it's like, oh, you know what? I can't have my husband looking at this thing,
Yeah.
I don't want to come visit this area because it's just titties everywhere.
Yeah.
So, how often do you shoot normally?
Well, okay. So it just depends. Right now, this year, I haven't been shooting as much as I shot last year. But last year I shot all the time. I mean, I did a 3-month road trip. And then before that, I was probably home once a week out of every month. So I shot a lot last year. This year, I'm only really touring or going to another place like 1 week to 2 weeks out of every couple months.
Oh, okay.
So I'm slowing down a little bit. It's like it took a lot on me last year. I was traveling a lot. And this year I'm just slowing down just a tad bit, working on, I wouldn't say rebranding, but just working on my own stuff. I do self-portraits and working with people who, instead of like chasing the paycheck, I guess, and trying to get that money, I'm just trying to work on my own brand and bringing in the money myself through, Patreon or OnlyFans or something like that, rather than traveling everywhere and wearing my body out. So,
right.
Yeah.
So you don't feel like you're necessarily like ramping down. You're just trying to find, like, you kind of turned it up to 11 and now you kind of need to figure out like where that good sweet spot is.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what would you guess? You've done like hundreds, 1,000 shoots. I mean, 1,000 is a bit extreme, but that's possible.
Definitely.
I mean, with over the years.
Hundreds. Yeah.
Hundreds.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That'd be cool to keep track of. I should have done that.
Just like, well, how are we going to like tallies in a cell or something? It's like, there's another one. There you go. And so when you travel, I remember the first time we shot, I think that you said that you were traveling up and down the West Coast via train.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there was about a year that I traveled completely by public transportation.
That's awesome.
And flying. I mean, I didn't have a car at the time, so that's how I got by, was flying and then just doing trains and buses. And yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was really good experience.
Yeah, that's what did you say last time? You said you took the train up and down. And it's funny because I had another model that reached out and she wanted to do like a West Coast tour, and I think I sent it to you. I was like, I know somebody who like does this up and down on a train. And it's like to me, I've never been on a train. Like I've been on like a subway, like BART or something like that, but I've never actually been on like an actual train, like a passenger commuter. What do we call it? Just passenger train.
You should do it. It's
I
fun.
want to so bad. I want to just travel myself and just to go and do shoots up and down, whatever. So you book pretty far in advance. Probably farther in advance than any model I've ever worked with. Like
really?
you and I booked this shoot in February.
That's true.
And it's May.
That is very true. That's awesome. Yeah.
And it's funny because it was so long. I was like, and I didn't even bother checking in because I was like, oh, well, it's Shawna. She's going to be here. Like, yes, we're going to be here. And then you reached out like last week. You're like, hey, are we still good for the 13th? I'm like, of course we are. Of course. Yeah. Is that a normal for you to book so super far in advance?
Yeah. I mean, I try to give myself a 3 month. So I initially so how I do this is 3 months, I try to plan it out in advance, but like, I'm not sure where I'm going whenever I initially start. So I give myself like maybe 3 or 4 different areas that I want to go to, and I check them all out and see which interest I get how much interest I get in each of them. You know what I mean? And then like maybe a month goes by and then like, okay, well, this is where I'm going to go. Like, this is where I'm getting the most interest. So that's where I'm going to gear the next month towards.
Oh, okay.
So like, I get everything. I mean, I book up till like the day before sometimes. So it's, it all depends. But I mean, I do start like at least 3 months out for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. I have it in my head, at least.
Yeah. I have to at least put them on like something.
And you're awesome at reaching out. Like, you're like one of the first ones that like book me when I come here. So it works out.
I try to, especially the schedule works out. I feel bad sometimes when like a model that I enjoy working with comes down. It's just like something's going on that day that they're here, and it's like, oh, like come on, like. And so, yeah, I'm glad that you came down. I'm glad that we got you on this show because I would love to talk to you because we had a great conversation last couple of times that we worked together.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? We're always shooting like I feel like every time you hear, we're always shooting something with colors. And like the first time we were on the couch down there and we did this with the little dog, the bulldog photo or picture behind you, and then last time I had you chewing on some like neon rope in there.
That's fun. Those turned out awesome. I love those.
Yeah, it looked great. It looked great. And then this time we're going to be in this. It's funny, in the same room, but it just it's
completely different.
Completely different look.
You're super creative, which I love about working with you.
Thank you. It's the colors. Once I discovered that I could put all these color lights everywhere, I was just like, this is amazing. I'm just gonna put colors on everything. It's like room doesn't have to look like this. Like this studio looks terrible. Though it looks bad right now. You guys can't see it at home, but it looks terrible with the white lights on. But when you put the mood lights on, it's like, oh dang, it's kind of mysterious. So in the nature photography nature modeling realm, I'm guessing there is kind of like subcategory. I don't do a lot of outdoor photography, right? But if you look at like indoor photography, there's indoor photography, there's studio photography, there's boudoir photography, there's all that stuff, right? When you're going outdoors in nature, like is there like do you ever prefer, like you said you like shooting next to creeks and everything, is it pretty much just like shooting, do you like to shoot like midday, like a sunset, like golden hour, like what is like your, like something you walk on a set and you're like, oh, this is totally going to work because this is my favorite jam or something?
Oh yeah. Well, lighting is everything with outside. Like you can't shoot in straight sunlight.
Yeah, you can't shoot what?
You can't shoot in like direct sunlight. Like it's just harsh. One, it's miserable for everybody because it's hot and your eyes are closed and squinty. So like that's just miserable and it's just not very nice to work in. But I prefer sunrise or sunset. Sunrise
or sunset.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
And when you go out to these locations, do you like, what's the earliest you've had to wake up to go out to one of these spots?
I've woken up at 4:30 to get ready for a shoot.
4:30.
Yeah. In the morning.
What's the farthest you had to travel for one of these shoots? Is it because you had to go out pretty far?
Yeah, because we had to go to a pretty secluded place, so we had to get up at I had to get up at 4:30 and drive to location, which may have been like close to an hour. So 5:30, maybe the start time was like 6 or something. Yeah, so
yeah,
but it was worth it. I mean, like I don't mind getting up early when it's worth it. You know what I mean? And I don't know. The shots are usually amazing.
Of course. Well, especially first thing in the morning, you got the probably the haze. And
yeah. And that's like the best time to, when people aren't around, people aren't up at that time really yet.
True.
You know what I mean? People aren't out and about yet. So
have you had somebody walk in on a shoot once?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But then you just like cover up and be like, oh, nothing's happening here, and just go on your way.
Yeah. Have you ever had somebody like a little too inquisitive? Like, what's going on? What's going on here? What are you guys doing?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Most people are pretty awesome and they kind of just, let you do your thing. But some people get nosy,
Get nosy. Like it's their business or something to police this. You know, it's like, do you have a permit to be out here shooting or something? It
was funny. This one time I was in Hawaii and I was working with a photographer and we were on the beach and we were waiting for people to get off the beach a little bit before we started shooting.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we were just waiting and waiting and waiting. We probably were waiting maybe close to 2 hours. And finally there was just this couple that were sitting up on like the bank and we're like, you know what, we're just going to go over and like ask them if it's okay if we just shoot a couple nudes here, like on the beach.
Wow.
So the photographer went over and he was like, hey, I have this model here, we were hoping to, get some pictures.
Was it a couple or?
Yeah, it was a couple.
Okay.
Yeah. It was an older couple. Well, I shouldn't say older. Maybe
like 40, 50s or something.
Yeah,
50.
yeah.
Okay, sure, yeah.
So they were in their 50s and I'm like, oh man, I don't know, But he went over and he's like, do you mind if we do some nudes here, before the sun goes down? We want to catch the sunlight. And I come over and I have like this big shawl like wrapped up all around me, and I'm like, hi, I'm Shawna, introducing myself, and she's like, I would actually prefer if you wouldn't wear that. I was like, oh, okay.
Wouldn't wear
the shawl. She was just like, she's like, yeah, go ahead. Like, I would actually prefer if you wouldn't wear that. It's going to be a nicer picture if you don't wear that shawl. Like,
that's the best. Awesome. What? Yeah, that's great. Oh, I'm sure there's a little bit of suspense there.
Yeah, because there was a little bit of tension, but then she broke it instantly when she was just like super cool about it.
What are you gonna shoot in that?
Yeah,
just take it off. What are you doing? You shot. You shot like everywhere.
Oh yeah, out in the woods.
You've been naked basically everywhere. Like every form of Mother Nature, Shawna's been naked on it.
Yeah, probably. And even
much.
in New York City, I was in downtown New York City. I was did a little guerrilla shooting there, which is pretty fun.
Oh, really? Just like run in the middle of the street real quick in front of the taxis and everything. I'm sure the taxi drivers is kind of like,
I actually did a nude shoot in the taxi.
In the taxi.
In the taxi.
You know, I always wanted to do one of those like inside of a car, inside of a something like, you know, kind of shoot. There's a little bit of like a risqueness to it. Like when you're a teenager, you're like making out with a girl in the back seat. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't want to get caught, you know? Like there's something about that. But the problem is that like every backseat of every car is so small. Like,
right? I
tried doing it once and the model and I were like cramped in there trying to get the shot.
Yeah.
She's like in one corner, I'm in this corner. It's like, it's not working. Hot and sweaty, you know? Windows are all fogged up. Someone's gonna be like, what are you guys doing? It's like literally nothing here, guy. Like it just
it's not what it looks like.
yeah. No, it doesn't work out. So okay. So you've been modeling for you've been nude modeling for how many years again? Because you just started with 6 years, and then you said you've been living in Oregon for a year. But
yeah, so I've been nude modeling for probably like close to 6 years, probably 5-6 years.
5-6 years.
Yeah.
Now, if I may, when did you get your breast implants?
Oh, so I got my breast implants before I even started modeling.
Oh,
I got
okay.
them when I was 22 or 23.
Okay.
Yeah. So, before I even started modeling, I actually got them when I worked at the hospital.
And you got them just because you just...
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, I was super self-conscious about them. You know what I mean? I grew up in an environment where like I thought that that's what made women beautiful, was having like large breast size. You know what I mean? It was just something that was in my head for a long time. And it was just a self-conscious thing. I got picked on a lot because I had smaller boobs for a while. So,
I'm sure this is,
it's like one of those things you grew up, and when something's like, I mean, when you're told something or picked on because of something, you're going to want the other, the opposite.
Now, you folks watching at home are probably like, did he just ask about this? What's going on? We talked about it ahead of time, all right? We talked about it ahead of time. So and the reason why I want to talk about it is because recently, probably a couple months ago, you made a post on social media and you were talking about wanting to actually have them removed.
Yeah.
And that's getting them is one thing. Is a big deal. Getting them removed is almost an even bigger deal, especially when it's not for any kind of like a medical reason.
Yeah.
And so you were talking about potentially having them taken out. Like I talked to you a little bit before just to make sure that you're okay with us talking about this. So just wanted to shock you folks at home a little bit. You know, it's like, what kind of podcast is this? But I would love to talk about like why is it that you're contemplating, you're thinking about doing getting removed?
Okay, so I guess I am changing. I'm changing my like thought patterns and like how I view myself. You know what I mean? I am not as self-conscious, I guess, about myself as I used to be. And I don't know, they just don't, they don't really make me feel the way that they used to make me feel. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like a lot of times it's with like body dysmorphia, for example, right? Like people look at certain parts of their body and they just feel like that part doesn't belong on me. Like, do you kind of feel like now?
Yeah. I mean, they're not real. There's like these artificial things that are under my skin in my body. And like, I don't know, I look at it as like you get a splinter, like there's something like that's, foreign that's, in your body. And it's like your body's constantly rejecting it. Like your body's trying to push it out. And I feel like that's kind of like what maybe I'm going through or something.
Sure,
like, cause they're not supposed to be there, And I don't know. I feel like there's just something going on, it's just not, I don't think it's necessary for me to have them. Like, I just don't need them. I feel like I would be comfortable with my body if I didn't have them. And I mean, I love them. I think they got me through like a tough time. You know what I mean? They got me to look past that and everything. But, I don't know. I just they don't like, it doesn't resonate with me anymore. You know what I mean?
How long have you been considering getting them removed?
A few years.
A few years?
Yeah.
Oh, this is not like, okay, wow.
It's not very new. I've always kind of had it in the back of my mind. I mean, maybe even a year after I got them done, I was like, man, like, this is different. Like, this is is a different thing. I mean, they're awesome. Like, I love them. They look great. but they're just like these things, you know, they're just like these foreign things. And like, I'm on the path of being natural and holistic, and it's not really aligning with me anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, but yeah.
So, so when you, I obviously, I feel like it's pretty safe to say you are going to get them removed
at some point.
At some point. Are you going to step them down, or are you going to just take them out completely?
Yeah, I'm just going to take them out completely. I've looked into. I've actually went to a consultation this past year, and you know, it's pretty expensive to get them taken out. It's just as expensive to get them taken out as it is to get them in.
Oh wow! So like the cost of the actual silicone doesn't really, or whatever it is, like doesn't even cost anything. It's the actual procedure that makes it's like going to a mechanic. Actually, it's like so it's the labor that gets you. Yeah.
But and I still want to think on it a little bit, because I mean I used to be like back and forth all the time, and now I'm more towards getting them out, but I still want to like give it more time.
Yeah.
Give it some more time. Also, modeling, I don't want to kind of interrupt that right now as well. So
when you posted that, just to give you kind of I mean, it's not quite the same, obviously, but Juno LTK, she had considered shaving her head. Because she feels more natural. Like she grew up on a ranch, like hair is a bother for her. Right. And so she was considering shaving her head, but she was worried about the impact it would have on her modeling career. And she got a lot of feedback from photographers that basically justified that fear. They were like, you know what? Like, I love working with you, but it is going to be difficult to like place you in these scenarios with like a shaved head. Now, having a shaved head is different than having, breast implants or not. But did you get feedback from photographers talking about what kind of impact that might have on your career?
Oh, yeah.
Not that they should have a say in it, of course, but still, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I had a photographer tell me that it would fully impact like my jobs and that I would not get hired as much. And, you know, that is a fear that I had, because, I mean, I think that, I mean, I've been told that I get hired specifically because I have large breasts. Like, I've been told that. So like, I know it's going to have an impact, you know what I mean? But yeah, I had photographers afterwards being like, no, don't get them taken out, you know, all this other stuff. But I don't know, when it comes down to it, it's like whatever makes you comfortable and whatever makes you happy. That's the bottom line. Yeah. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. I mean, one person might prefer bigger boobs, but the next photographer might actually prefer smaller boobs, and then you might get hired for that. Or one photographer might prefer longer hair or a shaved head. It's just like, you'll find you'll find it. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, there's I mean, especially given just like your what you're kind of naturally inclined to shooting, like outdoors, natural stuff and everything. So you have all this nature and natural stuff, and then you've got bolt-ons. Yes. It's like, sure, it looks great on the figure and everything, especially in like a scenario where you're in a studio or something. Yeah. But I could see, maybe
it kind of contradicts it a little bit. Like, I'm like, nude and nature, it's all natural. It's like, but wait. No. but that's just my perception. Some people don't even think twice about it. You know what I mean? It's just like, one perception of it.
Sure. Totally. And so, I mean, I'm so happy you share this with us, because, when I saw that, I copied it down, because I really want to talk to you about it and make sure that you're okay with talking about it. Because it is a pretty major change. Yeah. And I sympathize with you, because, you're in a position now where you feel like, well, I'd like to, but I can't really stop, or I can't really just take them out, because that could just be so jarring to my livelihood.
Exactly. Yeah.
With the way that you're kind of like, you're trying to find your groove with like how often you want to shoot and everything. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the next time you come out, you probably don't have them anymore or whatever. Yeah. I would love to work with you before, after, whatever, and see that, especially like with like on paper stuff that we did, it's very much a figure based thing. I would love to get that, the juxtaposition of the two.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, totally. And I'm sure there's a lot of photographers that would like me, that they would love to get both sides of Shawna. Yeah. I mean, there's models that got breast implants, and then they're reshooting with a bunch of photographers who like, especially the longer you wait to get it done, the more rapport you have with photographers, the more photographers you have kind of like, in your pocketbook. And then all of a sudden it's just like, you get them done and they're all like, oh, hey, let's try to shoot again.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And do all that. When you just to shift gears, get away from your boobs for a second. But when you come out here to shoots, I noticed that, and just when you travel in general, I feel like when you post your stories on Instagram that you're going to be, notice that you're going to be somewhere. Usually, you have a location already booked up.
Like a location to shoot out of or to stay. Sometimes it just depends. Like this time, I am staying with at a studio. So that studio is a place that we can shoot at too. Sometimes I book Airbnbs,
right,
and then we can shoot out of that. Sometimes I don't have a place. It just depends on, what I can put together.
Do you find that when you have the location secure, that it makes for you get more bookings?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Because it's just easier. It's easier for people just to come to me. Well, it's easier for both the photographer and the model because nobody really has to think about where to shoot. It's just all right there. I don't have to move. People just come to me and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a place that you shoot at pretty regularly, I think, up in Oregon. It's like is it a bed and breakfast or something?
It's a studio. So I actually used to live there. It was called Lumen Estate.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah, so estate. That's why I was thinking it was like a bed and breakfast. Okay.
It's a beautiful place. But I lived there for maybe like 4 or 5 months.
You lived there?
I lived there. Yeah, it was beautiful.
That's great. Just taking selfies and all these Victorian era furniture and all that. I mean, how many times have you shot out of that place?
Over a handful of times. And I also did self-portraits there, so
sure, absolutely,
yeah.
do you find that as a photographer that you take like bomb ass selfies, like you have the tripod set up and you're like, I know exactly how this is going to look.
Exactly, yeah. I love it. It's very it's a nice creative outlet for sure. Like I really like taking self-portraits, probably more than actually shooting, going out. I really enjoy taking self-portraits because it's all my creative. It's all of me, and I get to shoot it how I want it, light it how I want, edit it how I want, post it how I want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could take and edit the photos, however. Do you find that wow, how crazy? Yeah, you like doing I get it. You just kind of create on your own, but obviously there's the need to make money. I guess.
Yeah. Well, and it would be kind of lonely if I just always took self-portraits too. You miss that connection too. So.
Oh, sure. Sure, that makes sense. Yeah. Do you find yourself sometimes walking on a set and feeling like you need to maybe make some adjustments to certain things because there's photographers of all skill levels. Oh, yeah. I'm sure you've worked with photographers that are maybe just interacting with you is nerve-wracking for them because they also have all these other things on their mind that they have to set up and all that. Do you find yourself, have you ever been in a situation where you were like, let me help you with this thing because I've been a photographer? Yeah.
Yeah. I try not to step on anyone's toes or, I don't put my input out there unless it's I can see that there's a struggle or anything. But if somebody is cool and they're fine doing whatever they do, I let it go.
Nice.
Because that's what they want to do. It's no problem, But for me, how I make things maybe a little bit better is you said, you were talking about how some photographers are pretty nervous.
Yeah.
And I try to just ease that because whenever photographers are nervous, I'm nervous and it's just not very good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'll just try to chit chat with people and try to get them on a cool level. And then everything seems to go a little bit smoother.
A little bit smoother? Yeah. No, I get that. I was there too, a new photographer, and it was my first time working with a nude model, and I'm just nervous.
Oh, yeah.
I think I worked with Michaela Lola. She was a Playboy model. This is 10 years ago. And I remember she was the first real model that I worked with. And I was super nervous, trying to get everything set up. And she was super professional. All of her photos, she looked great in everything. Everything was my tech side. I had a cardboard. I made a ring light out of cardboard and tinfoil.
Oh my gosh! Hey,
totally works.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's fine.
Totally works. She was like, "What is this guy?" This is someone shop a Playboy. Just Playboy Centerfold. It's what is this guy even doing? Have you ever had any just horror stories when you go on a shoot? You saw it so many times. I'm sure you probably had. It doesn't have to be necessarily anything sexual or anything like that. Because every nude model has those stories.
Yeah.
But it could also be just technically tragic. For example, I had a model once come out and sit on my triggers, my remote triggers, and crush them. And so we basically had no remote lights for our entire shoot. Right at the beginning of the shoot, she comes and sits down and just crushes them. And I'm just oh my god.
Well, that's it, guys.
Just ruined.
As far as technical, I don't really think so. I mean, I've gone to workshops where like, you know, this person was booked for like an hour and 45 minutes of the time was him trying to figure out how to get his lighting because we couldn't get the lighting, you know what I mean? But nothing too tragic, I guess. I've had some weird experiences with just the person that I was like being hosted by. That was one weird experience. I had to haul it out of there. I had to leave the place.
Wow. Yeah. What was that? Do you want to talk about?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
It was just an uncomfortable position. I felt like I was being like, I mean, I can handle like a good amount of like flirtation, you know, I get it, you know, and I can handle it. Like I have a good tolerance for it.
Yeah.
But like there's a line and this line was like way crossed, like super early. And this person was supposed to be hosting me for a weekend. And the thing is I even checked out his references. He had like 3 references and I checked them all out. And I showed up at his house and I left within a half an hour because I was so uncomfortable.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I didn't even
30 minutes. Was he like, just like molesting you on the way in the door or whatever? Just like
very, so we chit-chatted for like a little bit and then I got like this weird vibe. So I was like, I'm just going to go to my room and like unpack some stuff, you know? And then he followed me into my room and was starting to like make my bed. And like, he was like watching me unpack and he said some things that were just like,
yeah. And
I was like, okay, my gut was telling me like, I need to leave this place because it's going to escalate if I don't leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he went to the bathroom, packed up all my shit and I left.
You left while he's in the bathroom?
Yeah. I didn't even say bye.
Whoa. That's like escaping being kidnapped, like level stuff. It's like, they're distracted. Let me run out real quick.
Yeah. My heart was racing so fast. But luckily that's probably the worst experience I've had. I mean, I really haven't had many terrible experiences. I always try to I check out references and I prep myself way beforehand before I try to go somewhere. But this situation, I mean, it was just different.
It was just different.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I mean, within 30 minutes, that's huge.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of models, they lack the courage, I guess, to just bolt when they need to because they feel like they're trapped almost.
Yeah. You got to trust your gut. That's
So I mean, obviously there was follow up. Did they text, hey, did you step out for coffee or something?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm getting coffee. I'll be right back.
Yeah. I mean, he called me right away and was like, hey, you know, you need to come back. Like, what's wrong? And I was like, you just made me super uncomfortable when I needed to leave. And he's like, no, come back. I'm like, no. I was like, I'm going to find a hotel for tonight. I'm going to think on it and I will decide things when I'm less flustered. You know what I mean? And then he was also very pushy about me coming back. Like he was just continually saying, oh, no, come back. Like, you know what I mean? On the phone. And I'm just like, like, this is just, I got to stay away.
Yeah. Ideally, when somebody escapes your house while you're in the bathroom and then says that they're going to think on it, that you made it comfortable. Usually you'd say, like, hey, you know, I'm sorry if you feel uncomfortable. Please take your time. No, come on back. Yeah. Everything's fine. Come on back. Don't worry. Let's start over. Let's start all over.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intense.
I mean, I can't believe this is just run. Yeah. Just run. So Shawna, that's it. I mean, like, you know, I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to just talk and just go over some of these things. You know, we have a number of things that you and I are going to shoot, or 2 things that we're going to shoot that I think are going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I got a real nice, like you already saw it, but I got a real nice kind of like an indoor outdoor type theme with like the lights and all that. We'll see how that turns out. Yes. But I mean, tell me. So actually, you know what? Tell me a little bit about your. You have like Patreon. You have. Do you have any other of like kind of paid services like that? Like,
I have Patreon, and then I just started OnlyFans.
Okay, yeah.
I just started an OnlyFans because there's a lot of guidelines on Patreon, and you can't
do certain things.
Them, all that good stuff. So I just started an OnlyFans maybe 2 months ago that it's up and running. So yeah. What's your
Patreon OnlyFans URLs? Like what's the names?
I believe it's just Patreon/Shawna Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And then
is it one N? 2
just
N's?
one N.
One N, okay.
Yeah. And then actually I don't know.
Because I've seen you go by Shawna with 2 N's.
Yeah.
It's
I'm not sure. I have to get back to you.
You know what I'll do? I'll find it and I'll put the link like right next to you, right next to you there, and then we'll put it up there. And so you basically you have differing content between the two, between Patreon and not ManyVids. That's a totally different thing. And OnlyFans.
Yeah.
So. Do you find it difficult to like balance doing all that content while you're out and about and doing everything?
A little bit sometimes. Sometimes I lack on posting the stuff on Patreon just because I'm traveling a lot. It just depends on, but then when I'm not traveling, I try to put more content out on Patreon and OnlyFans. So yeah, I try to balance it, but sometimes it gets a little unbalanced. Yeah.
And I mean, and you do all these self-portrait pieces. So I mean, you basically create your own content. For the most part. Yeah.
And I can just release all that on there, where it's like I have complete control of like what gets released and what gets shot and everything.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have like an absolute favorite photo that you took of yourself?
Oh, I have a favorite couple photos that I took of myself just recently. Well, maybe not recently, but whenever I was in Dallas, I was messing with like the blinds. I don't know, you may have seen it on my Instagram.
What I'll do is I'll put it right here where my face is. That way everyone can see what you're talking about.
But I was messing with the shadows of like the blinds, and it's a lovely set. I really like it. It's called Mornings Without You is what I like titled it. So it's a cute little thing. I like it. Some of my favorite shots are actually from that set. Yeah.
Do you find it difficult to name sets sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, but it's for self-portraits. Usually there's like I don't know, a feeling behind it or whatever.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I kind of like tie that into the title.
Sometimes I'm sitting there, I'm just like, oh my God, I gotta name these things. It's like, listen, it's just naked girl in bed, number 1000. Like,
that's that technical part.
It's just what it is. All right, with color lights. All right, that's all I'm doing. I don't need a name for these things. The hardest part is coming with this stupid name. Shawna, again, thank you so much for joining me on this today. I super appreciate it. Where can people find you on Instagram, and are you on Twitter too?
Not on Twitter.
Okay, so Instagram. No. Where can I find Instagram?
It's at Shawna Lee with 2 N's. SHAWNNA.LEE.
LEE. Got it. All right. Thank you again. I guess it's time for us to go shoot.
Woohoo. Bye.